Take good care of Dad for us, will ya?" With those words, our eldest son Derek and his wife Amy grabbed their bags and headed off on a trip. Left behind, I stared at my husband, who could hardly move, feeling utterly lost. How could my children be so cruel, leaving me to care for their ailing father? I couldn't help but wonder if I had failed in raising them, as dark thoughts flooded my mind. "Don't worry, I have a plan." The one who reassured me was none other than my husband. He looked at me with a smile and slowly got up from the bed. Ignoring my astonishment, he shared an idea to set things right with Derek and Amy. "Shall we get started?" I'm Layla, and I'm turning 48 this year. Just when our eldest son got married and we thought life would quiet down, my husband Mason had an unfortunate accident. It was a bad fall, and the man I saw in the hospital couldn't even get up on his own. Naturally, he was advised to rest completely, and my usually energetic husband became deeply depressed. Even after his discharge, he needed a wheelchair and constant care. I thought I'd be the one to take care of him, but surprisingly, Amy, my son's wife, volunteered. "But it's not right to burden you, my daughter-in-law, with this." "It's fine. We should help each other out in times like this." Although I found Amy's offer a bit suspicious, I had no choice but to rely on her. I was working too, and to be honest, her offer was convenient. I decided to compensate her for her help, including living expenses. About 2 weeks after my husband's discharge, I had a day off from work and planned to take him to the hospital. He was staying at Derek and Amy's place, so I headed over there to pick him up. I had informed Derek in advance that I'd be coming, but when I arrived, he seemed to be out for work. After calling out to Amy, I walked in to check on my husband and was horrified by what I saw. "Amy, what on earth are you doing?" "Oh, Layla, right. Today's the day you're taking him to the hospital, isn't it?" Amy greeted me with her usually carefree smile, but the condition of my husband behind her left me stunned. The room was a mess, filled with a terrible stench, and my husband looked terribly frail. "What happened to you?" My husband couldn't even respond properly. He had lost a lot of weight in just 2 weeks and looked like he hadn't been eating properly. Just as I was worrying that he might be sick, Amy said something unbelievable from behind me. "Oh, Mason hasn't eaten yet today." "What? But it's already 3 p.m. "Yeah, so can we get him something to eat outside?" "Are you kidding? He's too frail for that. Can't you make some soup or something?" When I suggested making some soup, Amy made a visibly disgusted face. Even though we were relying on her, she had volunteered to care for my husband. Seeing her react this way, I couldn't hold back my anger. How can you make that face when you've left him in this condition? "I'm letting you use a room in your house. Isn't that enough? Do you want me to be your servant or something?" "That's not the point. My husband can't walk because of this accident. All I'm asking is for you to help him a little." "Ugh, no way. Who wants to willingly take care of an old man?" "Maybe if you paid me more, I'd consider it, haha." Amy said this with a mocking laugh. If she was so unwilling to even make soup for my frail husband, I wish she hadn't taken on the caregiving role at all. We were even giving her some money for living expenses. This treatment, after trusting her, was just too much. I ended up arguing with Amy. "Don't call leaving him in a filthy room taking care of him." "Then why don't you take care of him, Layla?" "If I knew it would come to this, I wouldn't have asked you." "Great, then take him back to your house starting today." Frustrated with Amy's attitude, I decided to take my husband to the hospital right away. The doctor immediately gave him an IV drip after seeing his condition. Apparently, he was suffering from malnutrition. I was trembling with anger, thinking about what Amy had been doing to my husband in that room. Why did he have to endure such mistreatment after already suffering from an accident? I couldn't understand why she had volunteered to take care of him in the first place.
Layla, thank you. You saved me.
Are you okay?
I'll manage.
Thanks to the IV, my husband was able to talk again. He told me about the mistreatment he had received, not just from Amy, but also from Derek. They hardly prepared proper meals for him, occasionally giving him fast food or pastries. He couldn't even ask for help with the toilet or shower, which explained the terrible smell in the room. I was speechless to learn that even my son Derek was complicit. This is awful. Why did they even agree to take care of you?
It's probably about money. Amy even took my credit card.
What? Apparently, Amy had been borrowing my husband's credit card frequently, claiming she wasn't receiving money from me. Her actions escalated, and she ended up taking his card without permission and using it freely. Unable to tolerate this mistreatment any longer, we called Derek as soon as we got home.
Hello, Mom. What's up?
What's up? How could you do this to your own father?
Well, I have to work, so I had no choice but to leave it to Amy.
You think that excuses you?
Oh, you're so annoying. If you don't like it, you take care of him. You're the one who asked Amy, right?
Frustrated with Derek's unapologetic attitude, I urged him multiple times over the phone to apologize to his father. But Derek brushed off my concerns and even had the audacity to say, Fine. If you don't like how we're doing things, you can take care of Dad. Don't you feel even a little sorry for your father?
Not at all. We were taking care of him, and all you do is complain.
Hearing both husband and wife use the same dismissive language, I felt disheartened. Even when I asked how they'd feel if their children treated them this way in the future, they insisted it wouldn't happen to them.
Oh, by the way, we're going on a vacation during the holidays, on Dad's card.
What? Using Dad's card? What are you thinking?
Consider it a thank you for taking care of him. So, good luck with Dad's care.
With that, my son hung up without waiting for a response. My husband, who had been listening to the conversation, shook his head in disbelief. Fuming, I listened as my husband suggested a countermeasure.
People like that won't learn from a scolding alone.
So, what do we do?
Leave it to me. I have a plan.
My husband got up from the bed with a smile. Ignoring my surprise, he shared his plan with me. We decided to execute a plan that would make Derek and Amy truly regret their actions.
Let's get started.
While rubbing his still recovering legs, my husband spoke. While I was preparing to bring my husband home from Derek and Amy's house, Derek, on his way to work, handed me the keys and said,
We're separate households now, so don't steal anything, okay?
Just to clarify.
What?
You're planning to return Dad's card?
Like I said, once we go on the trip as a thank you for the care, we'll return it.
By then, Dad's account might be empty. Both of them smiled, looking like devils. I was so angry at their attitude, which was unrecognizable as that of my own son, but I held my tongue and waited for the right moment to counterattack. The next day, when they left for their trip, my husband contacted the credit card company to freeze the card. As expected, Derek called immediately, but we ignored it and enjoyed a peaceful holiday season. Do you think they'll learn their lesson just because we froze the card?
He's too proud for that. This alone won't be enough.
So, what's next?
After the new year, we'll make them feel a bit more pain.
My husband still had plans, and while continuing his rehab, he was contemplating the next steps against Derek and Amy. When the new year arrived, Derek and Amy returned from their trip and, as expected, came to our house. I answered the door while watching them bang on it and repeatedly ring the doorbell through the monitor.
Mom, you're there, right? We have a complaint about Dad.
What's the matter? I'll hear you out right here. Layla, isn't this a bit too harsh? What is?
You said we could use the card, right? Why did you suddenly stop it?
I never gave you permission to use it. They were the ones who first called us strangers, even though we're family. I have no intention of letting people who only act like family when it suits them to misuse a credit card. If they had returned the card and shown some remorse, I might have let it go. But I can't ignore their malicious attitude, showing not a hint of regret. In fact, I'd like you to pay back what you've used so far. You're asking for money back after we took care of you? You're quite stingy, Layla. It's terrifying that you consider that taking care of us.
Don't think you'll get away with this.
With that, Derek left with Amy. As my husband said, their unrepentant attitude left me more dumbfounded than angry. When I told my husband about their visit, he simply said,
I see,
and began preparing for work. The next day, he returned to work as he had informed them in advance. His colleagues were surprised at his quick recovery, but even more surprised was Derek.
Dad, why? You're supposed to be bedridden. I can't leave a son like you unattended.
My husband and son worked at the same company. Fearing that Derek would spread rumors in his absence, my husband decided to return to work. Though visibly annoyed, Derek began bad-mouthing my husband during lunch.
My dad, even after being taken care of by my wife, is so stingy about money. You call neglecting a bedridden father care? That's rich. My mom took him back, so we were free to go. And when my wife borrowed his card for living expenses, he suddenly stopped it. Who would let people who go on vacations with someone else's card do as they please?
My husband corrected his eldest son, who was trying to demean him. But no matter how much he corrected him, the coworkers seemed to side with the son, not the father. Apparently, not only Derek, but also Amy, had been spreading terrible rumors while making small talk and handing out souvenirs. Your wife pushed the care onto you without paying, right? Let her have her way a little.
My wife did pay. What are you talking about? My parents just want to show off. That's why they've become so comfortable lying.
At those words, my husband finally lost his temper. Derek had made him the laughingstock, saying he was exaggerating, and even denied the money I had been paying. Fed up with Derek and Amy's audacity to spread lies and play the victim, my husband pulled out something he had brought to the office.
You say I'm lying? Yeah, haha. Do you have any proof? Do you remember saying this when I was bedridden?
With that, my husband played a recording from the time he was at Derek and Amy's house. Despite his physical limitations, my husband had secretly recorded conversations with Derek and Amy. The content was so appalling that it was hard to share with anyone, even family. Mason, it's really unfortunate that you'll be bedridden for life. We'll use your money on your behalf.
Don't say that. It's an accident. It can't be helped.
Don't worry, we'll put it to good use.
If you're still alive when we get back from our trip, we'll give you a souvenir.
After playing the recording, the coworkers who had been siding with our children were speechless. Derek was flustered and tried to make excuses.
Anyone who can say such things in front of the person involved is clearly the liar, don't you think?
After being exposed, no one in the workplace sided with Derek and Amy. In fact, the truth spread quickly to the bosses, making it difficult for Derek to work.
It's your fault for talking too much. Now I'm also in trouble.
What? You were the one saying worse things. Despite the backlash, the two showed no signs of remorse. They continued to blame each other, and their marital disputes seemed endless. Eventually, Derek came to our house, saying he wanted a divorce.
I can't go on with her anymore. Work is the same. It's unbearable. I have no choice but to quit.
Oh, what will you do if you quit?
I'll come back here. My room is still available, right?
What? Why would I let a thief like you live in my house?
What are you talking about? I'm your son!
Derek yelled through the monitor. He still thinks we owe him, despite all the trouble he's caused. His audacity left me speechless. You were the one who said we're strangers from another household. I can't risk letting you back in to steal from us again. After hearing this, Derek finally seemed to understand what he had done. He left quietly. I can only hope that this experience will make him reflect on his actions. Later, I heard that Derek and Amy are still together, working hard to make ends meet. Apparently, they had chosen an expensive travel plan, thinking they could use someone else's money, and now their savings are almost gone. Derek still works at the same company as my husband, finding it difficult to change jobs due to the rumors. My husband had been diagnosed with a simple fracture, but due to his age, recovery would take time. Derek and Amy had misunderstood this as him being bedridden for life and were planning to use his assets as a lifetime gift. Hearing the word inheritance, my 52-year-old husband was furious and vowed never to leave anything to them. He recovered at a speed that surprised even the doctors and is now back at work, more motivated than ever.
I'm not losing to the young ones yet.
It's good to be enthusiastic, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, maybe I do need a break sometimes.
Exactly. Why don't we plan a trip to Hawaii or something? Though he's always been passionate about his work, we're planning a trip to ensure he doesn't overcommit this time.